Welcome, National HOSA. Thank you for joining me today. We are going to be discussing divisions, categories, and guidelines. Frequent concern expressed by HOSA members: I didn't know. To be in the know, here is where you can go. In general, the goal of all HOSA members is to qualify for International Leadership Conference in June. But in order to do that, you need to make sure that you qualify through your state or association. So if you are not sure where to go for information with regard to your state association conference or conferences, some states offer regional or district conferences prior to their state or association conference, and some may not. But all of that information should be on your state HOSA website. So if you're not sure where to go, under events, you have information for ILC, which we'll come back to. You also have the state conference tab. If you click on state contact information, you'll see we have a whole list of chartered associations here. I'm actually from Idaho, so clicking on our Idaho tab, you'll see our awesome state advisor and our HOSA manager. You'll also see the state website link. So when you click on that state website link, your state website should pop up with all the information that you need. It should have contact information for your state advisor as well. So if there are any questions that your local chapter advisor cannot answer, your state advisor should be able to help you with that. So stay informed. That is key. To events, of course, again, we want to get to the International Leadership Conference. So where do we find international leadership information? On that event tab. So the International Leadership Conference information is all right here. You've got conference information, registration is down here, voting delegates, you've got the agenda, general conference information, travel information is separate, and then of course you have competitive events information as well. And over here, you actually have an opportunity to look at previous winners. So if you're curious to see who won an event or which states won events, that is listed on this tab as well. Important to keep in mind, you can only qualify for one competitive event at International Leadership Conference, or ILC. Some states or associations will allow you to participate in multiple events at their own conferences, but at ILC, you're going to have to choose one competitive event that you have qualified for within your state or association. Registration for ILC and any event submission deadlines are required by May 15th. Members should know that the first thing they want to do each September when these are updated is look at the general rules and regulations, otherwise known as the GRRs. General rules and regulations are going to tell you how HOSA works. So it'll talk about your eligibility, it'll talk about events specifically, and another question we get asked frequently is, what is a division and which division am I in? So the definition of divisions are broken down here. In a nutshell, middle school is going to be grades 6 through 8th. Now, if you were in grade 6, 7, or 8, either during the conference that you are participating in or just prior to the conference that you're participating in, then middle school is the division that you want to register for. Secondary level is going to be grades 9 through 12, and post-secondary collegiate level is going to be any educational institution beyond 12th grade. So the challenge here is you will be competing against others within your own division. Middle school students do not compete against secondary. Secondary does not compete against post-secondary. However, if you are not registered appropriately, then you could be competing against others in a different group. So you want to make sure that you get your registration correct. If you are moving from middle school to secondary, let's say you're going from 8th to 9th grade, or you're going from 12th grade to post-secondary or college, it is important to remember that you need to register for ILC for the same conference that you did as your state or association conference. So even though technically you'll be going into 9th grade, you would still register for ILC as a middle school student. And if you're going into college first year, then you may still register as a secondary division member if you had recently graduated just prior to ILC. General rules and regulations are updated and posted online every September. So the first thing you're going to want to make sure is that you read everything. Don't forget your appendices as well. You're going to want to review these each year. Everything from dress code to cell phone usage to photo ID requirements, etc. You're going to want to make sure that you are familiar with these appendices. That's going to increase your chances of success during competition. Next, let's talk about guidelines and categories. So on the competitive events guidelines page, the events are broken down into different groups. So the middle school events have been separated just to be user-friendly. All of these events are actually going to fit in the categories that I'll go over in momentarily. But if you're a middle school student, everything you need to know is right here. Some of these events are going to be specific to middle school only participation. For example, extemporaneous health poster is now middle school only. But other events are going to be open to all divisions. For example, public health. So you'll have teams in the middle school, secondary, and post-secondary divisions competing in this particular event. Keep in mind, again, you do not compete against other divisions, only those registered within your division. So if you have questions, check with your advisors. For secondary and post-secondary collegiate events, these are broken down into 5 categories. So health science events are individual events. These are going to be events in which a member competes by themselves. Most of these are going to be single round events with a test-only component. The exception to that will be medical spelling, where there's actually a round 2 spelling bee. For the health professions, these are going to be specific to a particular health profession, and they will also have a round 1 testing event with a round 2 skill component. The exception here is going to be clinical nursing and personal care. Your emergency preparedness events. These are team events, so you're going to need teammates for most of these events. The exception to that will be epidemiology and life support skills, which are individual events. If you like critical thinking and being part of emergency type situations, then CERT, CPR, and EMT are right up your alley. If you want to look at more the preparing side or the response side, then MRC partnership and public health may be what you're looking for. Do keep in mind the same way that health professionals need to operate within their scope of practice, our future health professionals need to make sure that they compete within their scope of training. By that, we mean if you are currently taking an EMT course or you have completed an EMT course, then you should not be signing up for CPR first aid, as that is beyond your level of training. You are much more advanced. So make sure that you are registering appropriately for your level of training. That's going to make the events more challenging and beneficial to you as a member. Leadership categories, of course, are going to focus on leadership, but also employability skills. So you have job-seeking skills where you're going to be writing cover letters and resumes, healthy lifestyle, you'll be setting some SMART goals, and then there are some other opportunities to practice your speaking skills, writing skills, and even a photography event. Teamwork Of course, that's exactly as it sounds. So if you like working together to solve problems and share knowledge, then this may be the category for you. There are all kinds of different pathways to accomplish this task, from forensic science to medical innovation, biomedical debate, and health education, where you're actually going to plan and deliver a lesson to a classroom somewhere. All of the categories above, keep in mind, you can only qualify for one of those. So you would have to choose for ILC only one of those events that you qualified for through your state or association conferences. Recognition events, however, you may participate in addition to your competitive events. These are a little bit different in that, for example, Barbara James Service Award recognizes HOSA members who have participated in community service beyond their school requirements. Healthcare Issues Exam is simply a testing event on current events in healthcare. HOSA Happenings recognizes HOSA chapters for their communication efforts. HOSA Service Project, of course, is going to recognize HOSA participation with our national partner. And Outstanding HOSA Achievement and Outstanding HOSA Leader are designed to be recognized at the state level and also at the national level. And then HOSA has partnered with National Geographic Learning to provide an academic testing center, or ATC. These additional tests do not count against your competitive events. So at ILC 2020, for example, 2 of these tests were included in ILC registration. And many of these subject areas are subjects that HOSA members are studying in their health sciences anyway, which is kind of nice. So you have the opportunity to take tests in areas such as general chemistry or occupational health and safety, physics, etc., and get recognized for that at the international level. Do keep in mind, if you want to sign up for the National Geographic ATC, you need to do so during your ILC registration. That usually is going to take place prior to May 15th, just so you're aware. Going back to guidelines. So this is an example of a health science guideline, cultural diversity and disparities in healthcare. When you look at the guidelines, it is imperative that you read these thoroughly at least one time, just like you do your study habits. You always need to read the material once, take good notes, and then you can just refer back to it as needed. The information in here is going to be vital to you, including the rules and procedures for that particular event. A couple things you want to pay attention to include the test plan. So these are percentages of questions that will come from these particular topics that are listed. You have references that are going to be helpful because this is where the test questions are coming from. Additional instructions. There's a competitor must provide box to remind you of some things that you need to be doing or bringing with you. And then in the testing events, we've got sample test questions to help you. Now keep in mind, we don't provide answers to these questions, and we're not going to give you the entire test. This is just so that you have an idea of what the test has in store. Now, events with an activity or a round 2 component may have what we call rating sheets. Now, these rating sheets are what the judges use to score teams based on their submissions or activities in their events. So this particular example is parliamentary procedure. The first round is a test. Those teams that qualify move on to the second round, which is actually a meeting. That meeting is going to have a secret topic that is given to them, and they will have to proceed appropriately according to Robert's Rules of Order and complete that meeting in front of judges. So there are important items on these rating sheets that every competitor is going to want to pay close attention to. Ideally, you want to end up in that excellent category. And this is the best way to do it. Now, skill events are going to look a little bit differently in that skills are either performed or not performed. So oftentimes they're going to have points, no points, based on each of these steps. Keep in mind, skills become challenging because regions of the world may do these skills a little bit differently, which is why those references within the guidelines become important, because that tells you where these skills came from so that you can learn either the same way you've been learning or maybe a little bit different way. The more knowledge and skill you have, the better the health provider you become. So keep those things in mind. It's all about the journey. But these guidelines are here to help you be successful. These are updated annually, so when you do your ILC evaluations, it's extremely important that you are specific in your recommendations. Oftentimes we see things like the guidelines weren't helpful. Unfortunately, that doesn't help me decide where I can fix things to make them more helpful. So thank you for those of you that have been very specific in your ILC evaluations to help us improve the guidelines every year. Information has been helpful. If you still have competitive event questions, remember your local advisor can be really helpful for your chapter. State or association advisor is available to you for assistance, and of course you're always welcome to contact National HOSA. The hotline number is 1-800-321-HOSA. And of course, you are welcome to email our Director of Competitive Events, Bergen Morehouse, at HOSA.org. HOSA wishes you the best of luck on your journey as a future health professional, and we look forward to seeing you at ILC. Stay safe.